Hey y'all, what's going on? It's Shipper Lamora here. Welcome. I'm going to get into the topic of, I want to say, connection and relationships, and how we have to necessarily focus on finding our tribe. And how do you do those things? And I want to see if I can toggle without getting into much trouble. So, connection and relationship, finding your tribe, how to attract and build relationships and nurture your authentic self. That's really difficult because just speaking of just how much goes into friendships, even now, I have some friends that I haven't even responded to. I don't have the energy. I don't feel like it. I have other entities where I just have so many family issues. I like to say that we have more issues in our family than Vogue has additions. Shout out and RIP to Giorgio Armani. May he rest in peace here. And I say that to say that because as many issues as we have, it's like, what is the point? Everybody's posting about Giorgio Armani, RIP, RIP, RIP. And at first I was going to put one up that I saw on Aaliyah's page and put it up here or whatever. I thought to myself, look, I have a blog. I put Giorgio Armani up there in some of the courses. Like, I know Giorgio Armani, so I did my part. So I just went ahead and went right on bypass it. Now, when it comes to dealing with friendships and finding your tribe, I'm going to give you all a clue as to how difficult this is. Because there are times when I was completely alone. And that means that all of these people, no friends. Can you imagine a young girl, young kid, surrounded by thousands of other kids, no friends whatsoever? Not one to say, oh, it's cool, don't worry about that thing. Like nothing manifested as friendships at one point in time whatsoever at all. Zero friends. So I want to focus there. I want to focus on what that really is embodying, and why that idea of having massive friends is such in contrast, because we know how fickle and when we think about what that personality is, that's really composed of people who just constantly only root for fickleness. It's that many that you're usually normally alone, because the fickleness feels extremely negative, derogatory, inconsistent, very phony, fakeish, putting on for the masses. Oh, I'm doing it because everybody else is doing it. Yeah, this is really, 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 really an honest answer. People only do what they see everybody else doing, and that's sad because the embodiment of everybody else is a really massive number. I mean, think about it. How many people go to the ball games? How many people go to the concerts? It's a massive amount of people. How many people die from COVID? Massive amount. Everybody. And everybody loves to say the same thing. So I'm doing it because everybody else did it. And everybody wants that type of weird energy. And it's so sad to say. Everybody is rooted in that power of, oh, you hate them? Well, okay, fine. Let's pick up a stone too. And just really think about that. Think about what that fickle is, what that does to you, does to our world, to our community. Just research it, just history speaking, just in generally. When we even look at how many people died, I never forget the story that I saw on the news, and it was a guy up there, and he had just completely been ransacked through by COVID, and he was really handsome at one point, and then as soon as COVID hit, he completely plummeted, just completely crumbled, and just folded into this entity that was a shell of the man that he had been. And it was just so sad to see, because you notice that, okay, this guy must have really thought that he was like some kind of big popper at some kind of bowdy type of whatever type of entity that this guy embodied. And then next thing you know, how lowly he fell. And he looked awful. Totally sickly, totally in a spirit that said disease, and that nobody really wants that. Like, you're isolated, you're contaminated, you're contagious at the full throttle, like Walking Dead, ain't got nothing on you, boy. And all of a sudden you got to learn how to walk again. And we take these simple things for granted, so much so. And I hated that when people lose their limbs, we go to war, we don't have arms, we don't have hands, we don't have legs, we don't have friends, we don't have anything or anybody that really embodies a true essence of what it means to actually be somebody's friend, or be somebody's real life ride or die, or loyal side chick and wife, and my chick on the side, or whatever else, all in one person and embodiment. We so into what everybody is doing that it ultimately leads to a detriment. It ultimately leads to a retarding nature. It ultimately leads to a nation who's completely riddled with disease and sickness, to the point where it crumples our economy, to the point where it loses faith in its systems that are put in place to actually help us become better people. And then all of a sudden, how do you bounce back from those things? You're not. That's why people normally tell us that the prevention method is a much better route conduct than actually continuously go through it and then choose that we're just going to recover from it, because recovery is actually ugly. It's much uglier than people assume that it is. And that's another problem. We always assume that people are just going to be here. We just assume that everything is always just going to be better in the morning. We always assume that just because somebody is here, that means that they're our friend, or just because, the weather was nice today, that it's going to be that way for the next 24 hours. And how quickly do we get breaking news, or so-and-so is getting ready to go through with Eden, is coming to the Carolinas. Like, it just was all good a month ago. A week ago, an hour ago, yesterday. And now all of a sudden things have took a turn for the worse. Our health has begun to reveal that we have chosen a route that was a little less than what our body needed, and now we're suffering because of it. Now we're sick and laid up in the hospital bed looking crazy because of it, and that attraction is lost. The things that we took for granted that was just so embodied for the next hour, girl, we could still be here, is lost. And again, we have to look around and understand that having relationships and having people there who really care about us, having people who really understand the grind, who really get what it means to wake up every morning or be able to live to the next day, that is a really rare person. I was just looking at a picture with Aaliyah and Destiny's Child group members, Michelle, Kelly, and Beyonce. And all of the girls remind me of Amazon women. Have you ever seen the movie Amazon? She's a Wonder Woman, Superwoman, whatever. Kind of, sort of, when I think about it, they're similar. And so the ladies reminded me of that. They're just huge women, like just straight up cock diesel. And I'm just like, hearing a memoir from old girl, Beyonce's mother, which everybody should know who that is. And if you're unfamiliar, then, just do a little bit of research. I'm not going to even get into all of that right now. I don't feel like it. And so she has a memoir out. And in the memoir, she's discussing how they first ran across Aaliyah. And I think Aaliyah might have been 21 or something like that. And I believe that Beyonce in this particular memoir was quoted at only turning 19. And so they were getting ready to go out to some kind of event. Maybe Aaliyah was getting ready to host or perform or something. And that was where they were getting ready to go. And Aaliyah was driving. And then what stuck out was the fact that Matthew knows, this is Beyonce's father, was kind of sort of, I don't want to say upset. I don't know if that's the proper word, but to paraphrase, that they were going in the vehicle and he wanted to make sure that, I want to say, Aaliyah had proper driver's licenses and things of that or whatever, so that they, you know what I mean, we're not supposed to have been in bad hands, whatever, sound like Allstate. And when I saw this picture, I thought to myself, like, wow, she's the littlest in the group. Why is it that she's the only one who has to get checked about a car? So, people just have this real weird energy. And the explanation is just that simple. It's weird. You feel weird, you think weird, you lived weird, you act weird, you died weird, you got sick like a weirdo. You look even weirder by the hour that goes past because you have yet to prevent that thought from taking you over. And that's where we continuously go wrong. If someone is really giving you some sound advice, you have wise counsel, you have people in your life who are really taking that time out to pour into you. That is your tribe. And the way that you treat your tribe, I heard some really great advice from Napoleon Hill. When people are there for you in those moments that you really notice that there's not many there, those people are the ones that you have to learn how to make sure that at all costs, those are the people that you show up for in return. And I never heard a more sound piece of advice ever. And so that's really an embodiment of a human being who gets humanity, not the latest fads or anybody else is doing, let alone because everybody else had did it. All of those fall short to a moral compass of how you think, how you choose to conduct yourself, how you choose to actually think of an embodiment as a person that you hold at a certain standard. Their morals have to hold up to what they think about. And whenever they fall short, something's amiss. And that's not a good sign. That's not a good thing. That's not ultimately where you want to be at. You want to be a lady who has standards that resonate with a woman who you embody, that makes you feel proud of yourself. Not like you ran through, not like every girl in the world dislike you, want to put their hands on you, or mad all the time, and that's all you surround your energy around. Not wanting to feel like your crazy environment. Because trust, if anybody out there who has struggled with any kind of thought of your environment is just completely riddled with drama, I have been there. I totally understand that thought. Whenever I feel like Ohio is getting into my soul and my spirit, I always recall Texas. I always recall Dallas or Plano immediately to mind. And that heals that ick, that disease, that problem, that stubborn toxicity of this state. And it was really sad because Ohio was so riddled in COVID. I had remember they had the map and it was always in red. It was red for months, basically. And it's so fitting, and that is so sad. How sad is that? That we're only able to show up when it's about disease and drama. And that's why we're constantly staying in the red. And I always was looking at COVID as a way to be like, yeah, you tested positive for, a little bit of that boy, and that's sad. You tested positive for some flu crap. Again, it's the idea behind what that represents is so sad. That feeling that is what is only its cause is so sad. It's amazing. And the fact that even dealing with Beyonce again, we see the members disembody as one group, and we see them take their individual paths. And with the three remaining ones, most, which was the final disembodiment, and you can notice that Kelly usually gets rather angry. We don't usually see Beyonce angry, but we do see Beyonce behave certain ways that sometimes fall short. I will say that, which is sad, nonetheless, but it's something to observe anyway. And then you have moments where you can see Kelly Williams as well, or whatever. What is it, Michelle? All of the damn names at this point. But I caught a reel, I want to say maybe on Instagram. And she was getting her hair done. This is right after they reunited for one of the segments in Beyonce's latest Cowboy Carter tour. And she was doing something as a clip before, and then the clip after followed the previous one that she posted. And so it was a hair type of content for dealing with uh, how she wants to style whatever this particular hairstyle. But you can go on there and see it yourself if you want to. But what's weird is not the idea that you want to do your hair. The idea that women's hair is only a come up. And the fact that not only is it just seen as that kind of exploitating again of a come up, but the fact that Beyonce even knows that hair stems from her own heritage is just so interlinked and intertwined to that particular type of sadness. And yet it's profitable. It's made profitable. I have went on Ulta Beauty a few times, and lo and behold, the sacred experience is just totally in so many boxes to be ticked off, to get ticked off. But to be or not to be, when you get to these boxes are not to be ticked off, then what does that mean? Just because it's some kind of experience. And truth be told, I don't really like the word. And I know I'm gonna probably get like, oh my God, Beyonce can do no wrong. No. But I don't like the twist and play of all of these thoughts behind what some of the true words are. It feels inauthentic. Whenever I hear those, I immediately think of what an original word is, which is sacred, not how the hair company exploits it as being one way to gain and garnish certain type of favor. That I'm not in harmony with. Am not. Just still gives off certain flaky, fickle energy. No matter how much we masquerade it as this big mega superstar's hair brand. So you have to just find your tribe and find those people so you can practice mindfulness to the extent that your life is benefited. And when you can do that, things in your life are going to begin to shift. Just from the awareness is enough to even shift it to different heights and places and levels. And because the thoughts that are behind some of these motives and behaviors can elevate, alleviate, signal that this is where you have to rise to meet some of these thoughts, because some of them have to kind of sort of half step in where you get to rise and meet where the actual landing spots are. It's not as like way over here. Like you have to kind of go to certain spots in order even to manifest some of what our dreams are. So when you do those things, you will find that within whatever the sphere is of your most kind of sort of prominent domain, if you will, okay, it's going to have energy that resonates with an authentic person, not who somebody wants you to give so that they can have some kind of come up bitch or whatever. That energy is a little more diluted. But an authentic person can take the chaser necessarily, so to speak, as it is, whether it's a lemonade, just it doesn't need anything extra. If you need extras, Napoleon Hill says this really well. You've gone overboard. the feelings, uh, the long nails. I saw Flojo and I was like, those nails look crazy. Why? And then we killed her. Ran so fast she just went to the floor. So we really are riddled in history with certain things that have totally just put us into a certain type of sphere. And when you really want to practice being a person who's authentic, you're going to watch who you surround yourself with. You're going to be mindful of who's around you. You're going to make sure that you're mindful enough to the point where you only place those people who benefit your life around you. Because you know that in order to manifest the life that you want, you need to do these things. And how do you do those things? Take inventory of who's around you. Take inventory of the feelings that they cause you to experience when they're here. Are they good or bad? If they're bad, then you need to get rid of that type of energy so that you can practice your authenticity. Because those people who you allow to steal your joy from you are only allowing those negative thoughts to enter into your mindset because they think that they are able to do those things when they're not. There was a time where I did not want to even be bothered with um, just many thoughts in general when it comes to dealing with the fact that I got to go back to school or I have to figure out who is most appropriate when it comes to dealing with how you go about certain social standards when it comes into what it is that I think about when it comes to dealing with certain type of female type of characteristics when it comes to dealing with dating. There's times when there's moments in time that the only space where I've always felt like was a shoe in necessarily, so to speak, a very sure thought that I never really felt like, I do not want to join church. I do not want to be bothered with anybody in church. Like I never, ever, ever, ever felt that way. That's probably the only thing that I can really pinpoint where I've sincerely just knew this was right through and through. If that even counts for anything, but most likely that's just a testament to how positive that experience has been. And what do I mean by that? I mean that out of all the drama, the only place that was able to really handle that was only going to certain where there was never any second guessing, any hesitation, any delays, nothing. Everything was just a smooth, straight go. Go, 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 go. And I had to get to stop. Every time I run into some money, I always try to tithe. I always look back with fondness on all of the mission trips. Every single time. I've never looked back with any kind of sense of sadness or loss like COVID. I have never done that like my neighborhood. My neighborhood brings me total sadness, total misery, um, just a total sense of loss and lack. Um, but whenever I think about my church home, I always feel welcomed. I always am acknowledged that I get food, drinks, water, friends. I always get energetic company, people who are mindful, people who love me, who support me, people who sincerely wish me well, people who authentically want to see me succeed. None of those people there have ever called me any derogatory name. I don't know if they can just sense the energy and get scared. I'm not sure. But at this point, I've also learned how to not get angry or feel that that's a bad sign. I really learned that at times there really is a bias to why they oftentimes feel the way in which is with Labria. What in the world? The way in which that they do. Now, when I realized that sometimes, people really can feel what the energy says and it can come across that way. I've learned to not be so quick to blame them, is where some of these thoughts come from. And that's what I mean by people who move really in depthly to the point where they just don't really understand that they're moving slowly. And if they do, they just don't care. So the lady who called me a derogatory name goes around and calls you, the slow mover, a derogatory name. You got way too much time on your hands, so now today's the day. That's a weak person. Because for number one, you didn't even have to move as slow as you did, but you chose to. That was a choice and decision. And that falls back to the point where everybody is not as easily able to forgive as others. And this whole generation that I've seen, that's basically all what it boils down to. That's the crucial lesson in this whole entire life that I live, in this point in frame time that I'm seeing. So whoever comes after the generation that is wrapping itself up now, especially I want to say with the millennials most, that is technically where I'm feeling most of the heat. And that means pressure to rise, to forgive, to think clearly, to have clarity, to manifest, to level up, to elevate, to alleviate the pain of this world. And because it's very fallen. I mean, just go through the videos that I have. Just the last video about not turning back was devastatingly honest. There's no reason for any white female to want to call another black male anything other than her name, female especially. Why? We've been through the whole slavery ringer for just to the point now where that's so old. And I really struggled with this for a second. I struggled with understanding that the fact is that we there's so many people in this the just generalized problems. Like it's so intense, and I've learned that it's clearly something deeper, and that's what is oftentimes misconstrued. I mean, I will definitely say that, and I'm guessing it's just like a part of life. I guess it's just some kind of lessons that we have to be able to kind of just deal with, go through, and I'm it's really just about being the bigger person. It's really just about, and I don't always just mean physically. Physically is always what it's about, because that's not necessarily, so to speak, true either. And I mean, at the times when you really are kind of sort of trying to figure out what's going on taking place with somebody, what do you do first? You call them, you check in on them, you see how they're doing. An authentic person, though, sometimes may just say a quick prayer. I have a prayer partner, Eula, and I'll just simply at this point say a quick prayer, and I'll just leave my day at that. It's not really about calling and reaching out. At one point in time, we will call just to specifically say a few prayers about things that we really may have held on our heart, and that's fine at that particular moment. Stop touching that button here. But if you constantly feel the need to text me, I'm gonna look at that a little different. So if I need some time out to do what I want to do, I'm gonna take that time out. And if people can't respect that, then people just assume that you have to do something. You don't. Just allow their minds to do all the things that need. And eventually that's exactly what will happen. You just really gotta have patience. And as long as you're patient enough to allow those type of things to transpire after we've chosen what we've done, you will really understand that was really one of the best courses of action that you could have ever taken. And that's one of the main things that I've always really appreciated about just certain things in life in general. Nothing has ever really held up close spirit whatsoever to joining a certain environment like that. So whenever I see that my cousins are struggling or leaving or are not really interested and things like that. It just kind of breaks my heart a little bit. It kind of be, and like when we think of a broken heart, we think of derogatory. We think of, and that's so sad because derogatory reminds me of purgatory. That's like a part of hell. I think that's where you go in that waiting cell area, whatever, till you figure out what your true route is, and then either you do or you don't. You go to hell or you go to heaven. That's purgatory. And so there's, those moments where it's just like, wow, you just another year is going by, and we're still waiting. And we're getting older. I'll be 36 in October, so I'm the youngest out of the girls in all of our necessarily, so to speak, generation that's within my own family. Now, why is joining such a hard thing to do? I can tell you. If I didn't find it that difficult, I really thought it was one of the best experiences that I ever had. But I will say that some of the reasons why I joined the church has to deal with some of the ones who struggle to find a church. Now, if that doesn't wake somebody up, it's really nothing that will. Um, so I'm just going to say that anybody can put that out there. And then you have those moments where you're just like, well, what is the purpose of doing all of this? What is the goal? What's ultimately what is taking place that really is helping me manifest and bring about what it is that I want to do? And that's a personal quest that you have to find, that you have to answer. And for an example, when I'm trying to figure out how to express some good news about something that I heard in somebody else's life, and I do those things and I feel as though it's taken for granted, I switch up some things. And not to rub it in their faces that I caught you doing something weird or whatever, but for me, for what I want to express in an authentic nature, it has nothing really to do with anyone else. So it's necessarily, so to speak, appearing like, oh, they did this, so that's why they did that. No, not necessarily, so to speak. I did this because of how this caused myself to feel. So, like, check what people are making you believe, because people assume they have so much power to make us think anything, and they don't. We have so much control, and we have to just learn how to harness that particular part of ourselves, our brain and our personality. And I really don't think I personally just don't believe that there's anything more to that than necessarily just learning. And then at that point in time, when you've mastered those skills, it's natural to only move on to the next one. And usually, normally, they are placed, a little inch or two higher above the last one that we conquered and or achieve. So I'm going to end it here. Hopefully you all have a great day. Thank you for watching and stopping by. Make sure you like and subscribe. Have a good day. Bye-bye.